Hey everybody, I'm Ben Rorvick, and this is Press Coverage. Today we're going to do a mock draft roundtable with the draft being in a few days. I got a special guest, Colby West, with me here today. We're going to kind of do every other pick and see what happens. We're going to use the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator as well. So if any trades arise, we'll be drawing them from that.
Cool. What's going on, everyone? Here from Vegas. Happy to be a part of the show today and doing a little roundtable action like Ben mentioned. So, yeah, I'll let you get after it.
Yeah, let's just start right away with number one in the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think it's really a secret here, but they've been pretty much looking for Joe Burrow since the national championship game, maybe even a few weeks before that. Honestly, not wanting to re-sign Andy Dalton as he's still a free agent as well. So with number one, I'm going to make the pick with Joe Burrow with Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much been set in stone since about December. So, let's get that on the board.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy pick.
All right. Number two, we're going to rock with my Washington Redskins. I think this one's more or less been locked in as well since about that same time. They've been watching this player kind of tear up the entire college football ranks since his junior season at very least. So with the second overall pick, the Washington Redskins are going to take Chaisson.
Yeah, I mean that's another good pick too. I think for the last couple of months we've been kind of saying the Detroit Lions are pretty much on the clock. These first two picks are pretty much no-brainers. Washington gets a monster pass rusher with Chase Young. Like you had mentioned, he's been pretty much on the scene since the start of his junior season and even made a little Heisman campaign run last season as well. So let's get to number three with Detroit. And I think this might be our first chance of a trade back option. So number three is Detroit Lions. I think they have a few options here. They could be going with the cornerback Okudah from Ohio State. But as we've been kind of hearing, they kind of are looking for a trade back as well, Colby. So I think here the smartest move for an NFL team to move up here would probably be the Chargers to get their guy in front of Miami. So let's do that. Let's move the Chargers up to number three with Detroit's pick, and they're going to take Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. They've got to jump. Mainly concern here is Miami. I don't think the Giants are looking for any quarterbacks at this point. They're pretty sold on Danny Dimes, and yeah, they've got to get ahead of Miami. So this makes a lot of sense.
Let's chalk that up. You had kind of talked about Danny Dimes as well. You can take the Giants now with the next pick.
All right, yeah, the Giants with number 4, like I mentioned, yeah, gotta protect him, gotta give him some weapons of some sort. They've got to go. I think they're either going to lean tackle here or wide out, and right here I'm going to give them Tristan Wirfs. He's a beast from Iowa. Should serve as the cornerstone and hopefully keep Danny upright.
Yeah, they have a big decision here to make. Do they take Isaiah Simmons, who can play all over the field, or do they start kind of building up that offensive line in protecting Danny? I think Wirfs here is an absolute no-brain pick here for the Giants to protect his blind side here. So it's a great pick. Number 5 here, the Dolphins are kind of in a decision as well. Do they now take Okudah, who's still on the board, Simmons on the board? They have enough receivers, so I don't think we see a receiver go off the board yet here. Or are they looking after Justin Herbert? I think it's time to take their franchise guy and take Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I think that's right up the line. I think they would have rather had Tua, but they're going to settle for Herbert, which I think he'll be totally fine as a quarterback. He's going to have a little competition coming in, but nothing he can't come out of, that's for sure. So
even if he has to sit for a year behind Fitzpatrick, I think they can at least start grooming him with a really smart quarterback ahead of him.
Right. Cool. So we've got Herbert at number 5, leading us to number 6, which is the trade back from Detroit. And Detroit, let's see here, we've got, I think they still get their guy in Okudah, fill the spot of Darius Slay, pair him next to Desmond Trufant, which should be a nasty cornerback combo for the next years to come. Okudah's a complete lockdown guy. He's the next beast. He's the next Ramsey. He's long. He can play outside, inside, wherever you need him to. He's a playmaker. So this is a lock.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of this year were kind of starting to talk about Okudah, and he was kind of starting to hear the whispers. And then people were kind of saying, like, well, maybe he didn't play his best ball this year. But it's also at the same time as, like, if you're already being viewed as the top corner in the draft, people aren't going to start throwing at you at the college level. So I think a lot of his production this year kind of that went down the drain was also people just weren't really targeting him as much. So I'm with you. I think this is a huge Slay replacement here. Would be great in Patricia's defense. So next up is the Carolina Panthers at number 7. I mean, I can kind of see them taking Derek Brown to plug the nose on that defense, or Isaiah Simmons, again, as we kind of talked about earlier, can play all over the field. It'll be kind of just dependent on what Matt Rule wants to do with his new team here. They're going to go with best available and take Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I don't think he can slip any further than this. He's a complete beast. He can play anywhere. I keep hearing the name Sean Taylor, and RIP, dude's a beast, and he's 6'4", like 230, can play safety, can play linebacker, can do whatever you need him to. So Carolina would be stoked to have him.
Yeah, I mean, pair him next to Shaq Lawson too. He kind of gets forgotten about a little bit, but I mean, I've even seen Simmons can play some nickel corner too. Like, that's incredible for a guy that size. So, I mean, he can literally plug and play on any defense in this entire league.
Yeah, with number 8, I've got Arizona. They've got playmakers all over the offensive side of the ball now. They've got Hopkins. They've got Christian Kirk. They still got Fitz doing the thing. Kyler needs some protection as well, just like Danny Dimes. So we're gonna get him as cornerstone in the absolute beast of Andrew Thomas.
Oh yeah, Andrew Thomas. I mean, that's a great pick here. He definitely needs a tackle, and with a lot of tackle talent left, they'll kind of get their pick of the crop as well, whether that's Wills or Becton or Thomas here. Thomas, I think, played a few different line spots this year in college as well, so they can kind of slide him around if they don't even view him as their left tackle, slide him to right tackle. But here with Arizona, I think they absolutely have to take a lineman. These rumors about CeeDee Lamb are kind of funny with Kyler being a college teammate, but I mean, they already have so many weapons in Arizona now. So
yeah, that offense could be a lot of fun to watch, and Andrew Thomas is the athlete they need. Definitely protecting his blind side. Kyler likes to move around a little bit, as we know. So
yeah, let's move on to number 9 here then with Jacksonville. Here could be one of the first wild cards. There's some receivers on the board here as well. Still got your tackles here. Derek Brown is still available. CJ Henderson's the top corner available. They lost Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. So honestly, I could really see them taking CJ Henderson. Some people around the league have him neck and neck with Okudah. So let's go CJ Henderson number 9 here and make our first pop pick of the draft.
Yeah, I like that. There's no shortage of talent with CJ. He's a beast, like you just mentioned. Has been balling at Florida for a couple of years now, and Jacksonville definitely needs someone to fill that hole that Ramsey just left there. So this makes a lot of sense too. Cool. Let's move to number 10. And we've got the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's got some holes. They've got, we're talking offensive tackle, got to protect Baker. Need a little bit of help on the defensive side of the ball with that safety, linebacker, probably some D-line too. So I think, although Baker would love one of those top wideouts, I think they get their tackle here, either by means of trade or just selecting Jedrick Wills. Jedrick Wills is the left tackle for Alabama, protected Tua, and who filled in for him. So let's rock with Jedrick Wills here.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. Yeah, Saban, had you had mentioned about Tua protecting him, Saban trusted him a lot in protecting Tua Tagovailoa down in Alabama. So I definitely think that this would be a great pick for Cleveland, as they definitely need some offensive line help to help their run game, help Baker. He needs time to get the ball to Odell and Jarvis and their new weapon at tight end here as well. So I think they have to absolutely go line.
Yep.
Let's move forward here then with the New York Jets at number 11. This is going to be kind of an interesting pick as well, as everyone in the draft knows they also need a left tackle to protect Sam Darnold as they got. But they could also use a receiver too, losing Robbie Anderson and having Jamison Crowder, I think, is one of their only returning receivers left. So do we see the first wide receiver off the board here? Do we see a trade-up scenario for Denver, who's been rumored to wanting to get around the top 10 to get a receiver as well? I don't know. Becton's still on the board, and for some reason, I don't think that failed test at the combine is going to move him down much further. As we saw Laramie Tunsil literally photos during the draft, and he only fell like barely out of the top 10. So, I mean, if I'm choosing for the Jets, I'm taking an offensive tackle to protect Sam Darnold. I mean, he's your most important asset. You can get receivers later in this draft, as this draft class for the receivers is really deep. So I don't know. I think for me, I would definitely be taking Becton here.
Cool. Yeah, so Becton's a solid pick. I think the risk is very low there. A lot of people vouching for him as a person, and I don't think you can miss with this pick. So first pick of the Las Vegas Raiders franchise, I think they get an absolute steal at this pick. I thought he was going to go top 5 before this season, and Derek Carr gets his weapon of Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great pick. I like you, before the season even started, Jerry Jeudy, if you would have asked me before the season, I would have said definitely a top 5 pick. I mean, he's definitely still the best receiver in this draft class. So for them to have him on the board at number 12, they'll be doing cartwheels in the draft room. Gruden gets his guy. Mayak's going to absolutely love him, as he's like kind of another Amari Cooper out of Alabama, where he's just an excellent route runner, has great hands, has speed, everything that they pretty much want and need. Let's get to 13 with the San Francisco 49ers here, making their first pick of the first round. This was the trade that they got. They got this pick from the Colts, and I think they are also going to be looking at a receiver. There's a lot of really good options left for other positions as well. But I think they probably were taking some notes, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan in the Super Bowl, like, wow, Tyreek Hill would be really nice to have. Well, there's one of those on the board here, and honestly, I could not imagine Henry Ruggs in a better system in the NFL than with Kyle Shanahan, who can absolutely use him all over the field, whether it's in the exact same Tyreek role as Kansas City uses him in, or just running deep routes and letting Garoppolo just throw it to him down the field. So here we're going to go Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see him in that jersey, actually. It's going to be a playmaker, and they just lost Manny Sanders. So they definitely have a void there, and Ruggs will definitely do his part, and that's going to make that offense even more electric. So that's a solid pick. Brings us to Tampa Bay, and with the new jerseys, new quarterback, they got some weapons there for Tom. I think he's going to love that atmosphere. I think they've got a lot of potential here to trade, and Trent Williams is an offensive tackle who I think they should definitely go after personally. He's unhappy in Washington, but for the sake of simplicity today, let's say they get their new offensive cornerstone left tackle, and we're going to select Josh Jones here out of Houston to protect Tom's blind side.
Yeah, like you had mentioned, they might be making that move for Trent Williams in the draft, which, obviously we can't predict. Trent's been unhappy now for a year and a half with Washington's management. So whether they're willing to shell out a second round or later pick, that'll be left to them. But as you said, it's still definitely a position of need that they need, and they need to protect Tom Brady. We all know that he can't complete those passes when he's laying in the ground. So with those awesome assets, they don't really need anything else on offense. So, all right, let's keep moving here then with number 15 in the Denver Broncos. They've been rumored to be wanting to trade up. I feel like a lot of teams this year are wanting to trade up, and then the teams later want to move back out. But John Elway definitely sees his offense needing another weapon. They have just Cortland Sutton now. They lost Emmanuel Sanders to the Niners last year, who then now moved on to New Orleans. With CeeDee Lamb still on the board here, I think they would jump all over CeeDee Lamb, and loving this pick for that offense.
Yeah, they definitely need a playmaker, and CeeDee's absolutely that. He's got great hands. He's electric. He can make plays all over the field too. That offense will be a lot of fun to watch. You've got Locke, you've got Melvin, you've got Sutton. That'll be fun to see. Noah Fant. Let's go to Atlanta with the next pick. They're in a great spot to trade down here, I believe. So I think they go kind of the best player available approach because this guy has slipped down way further than anyone ever thought he would. May not be an immediate point of need for their team, but Derek Brown's simply too good to pass up here. I think that's where they go. Let's go Derek Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that he's still here, honestly, and he might not be on Thursday, but in our sake of our mock draft, he's still here, and they need a lot of defensive players on that team to kind of rebuild that. I mean, they would be absolutely ecstatic to still have Derek Brown on the board there. Number 17 is your Dallas Cowboys. They are kind of in a spot where they need secondary help. They did sign HaHa Clinton-Dix this offseason. They re-signed their corners from last year with Anthony Brown. They did let Byron Jones go. So, I mean, I think they're really hunting for a corner. They would love if CJ Henderson made it to them. But, I mean, they could also use a safety as HaHa Clinton-Dix is only on a one-year deal. Javon Kinlaw is still on the board here for us. He has a lot of medical trouble, but he may as well be too good to pass up. I think we are going to give Dallas Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the secondary is a bigger need, but this guy's got loads of talent, and they're not going to be disappointed with that.
Yeah, no, they definitely need some ball hawks back there that they would probably address later on in the draft, seeing that their best player available still is Javon Kinlaw. So that would be the only reason I would have them taking that pick. But the corner class in this draft is loaded, so I would hope that they were going to address the corner in the second and third rounds.
For sure. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So wide receiver and corners are super deep in this draft. I think you'll get some playmakers in second and even the third round. So Miami with the 18th pick. This is their second pick of the day. First, they got Herbert. And now with 18, they've still got some needs on the offensive line. They need some help on defense as well. They've got a couple solid corners in Xavier Howard and now Byron Jones. So I think they fill another need in safety. They've got some aging safeties back there. So I think they are ecstatic about McKinney. McKinney's going to be a complete playmaker for them back there, and that secondary is actually going to be really scary.
Yeah, this is honestly a guy that I debated taking there with 17 for Dallas, but Brian Flores comes from New England, and what have you kind of seen in the last few years is they're kind of building that secondary up before anything else on the defense. So I think he definitely takes those traits, and I mean, he's going to have one of the better secondaries in the entire AFC now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of talent, and even if you aren't a huge believer in Byron Jones, that's a lot of ball hawking, and Xavier McKinney just adds to that.
19, we're back to the Las Vegas Raiders at their second pick in the first round. I mean, after losing Khalil Mack a few years ago, I mean, they never really replaced him with much. So honestly, I could really see them going with sideline to sideline linebacker here. And with Kenneth Murray still here, he has the speed to make pretty much every play on the defense. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Murray here at 19.
That's awesome. I actually didn't see that one coming. Does make a lot of sense, and Gruden will love that. So Kenneth Murray, yeah, like sideline to sideline, the dude's got speed. Reminds me of unfortunately the Cowboys linebackers who just seem extremely rangy. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, although your Big 12 defenses don't normally have a bunch of defensive playmakers, for the last few years, whenever you'd watch Oklahoma, you were watching for that offense. But then when they did have their defense on the field, you were kind of like, who is that guy? Like, why is that guy making all the plays on that defense?
Yeah, head and shoulders above the rest of that, even though, yeah, allowed 30, 40 points a game. But
yeah.
Cool. Let's go rock to Jacksonville at number 20. Who did they get earlier? They got CJ Henderson earlier. This is their second pick. Still got some needs on the D-line, maybe even edge rusher. O-line, running back with their rumors of Fournette. I think it's still too early for running backs. I don't even know if one's going to go in the first round, to be honest. So let's say they're going to go with I believe, which is a top 10 talent, maybe even a top 5 talent. We're going to select Grant Delpit here. A lot of people may say this is a reach, but I think his talent is unmatched at the safety position, even above McKinney. In my eyes, I think he's got the talent and potential to be a really good playmaker in the years for the next 10 years. So.
Yeah, Grant Delpit is a great pick for them. This was another guy that if you would have asked me before this last season started, who would have been a top 5, top 10 pick with Jeudy, I would have absolutely answered Grant Delpit. He had a fallback season this year just because he kind of couldn't tackle again. But I mean, in the years prior when he was running that defense down at LSU, he was making a lot of tackles. He was making a lot of plays. So, I mean, he has it there. It'll just be dependent on if it's just a flash or if he can consistently get better now that he's in the NFL. So I've got 21 here with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I think we all kind of saw down the home stretch of the season last year. Carson Wentz had practice squad players, I guess you could call them, to throw to. Greg Ward was his leading receiver. I mean, I know he'll be calling Philadelphia and telling him to draft a receiver for him. So with Justin Jefferson being the best guy available here, I would probably bank on them taking Justin Jefferson here.
Yeah, you've got some other wideouts on the board. You've got Higgins, Chenault, Rieger, Jefferson. I think is the most complete one out of those. The other guy's got some upside, but this would give them what they want. I think they're even looking to trade or even cut Alshon. So this is definitely a need for them. Minnesota. They've got a couple first-round picks here, both in the next few. They've got some needs at corner, wideout, maybe some edge rusher. I think they'd be stoked to still see Christian Fulton on the board. So I think that's the direction they go here. They lock down a playmaker in Fulton and are stoked about it.
Yeah, Christian Fulton probably played his best ball against the best receivers he saw last year, honestly. Like when he was playing against Alabama and Clemson, even in the national championship game, he was locking down T. Higgins and Jeudy. They weren't really doing a lot against him, so I honestly am not sure how he's not a higher rated corner in this draft. But like we had mentioned a couple of times, like this corner class is so deep that having him here for Minnesota at 22 is just an absolute steal, I would think, for them. All right, so we are to the New England Patriots at 23 now. For a while, they've been like clamoring to trade up. I think they want to get their guy, and he's still on the board here. So Bill Belichick wastes any time and just goes and takes his guy. We saw Tom Brady left this offseason, probably for the better for the rest of his career. Good for Bill to build up another quarterback and maybe start his own run without Tom Brady. So with Jordan Love still on the board here, I have to think that they make that play.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Bill's been, like you said, trying to trade up, and I definitely think Love's got a lot of potential. I want to say I remember seeing his numbers were even better 2 years ago than last year. So people do see that potential spike and really might as well take a shot here. They've got their defense in place, so they're not like they need to score 30 points a game anymore.
Yeah, he did have a better junior year, but it's also they did have a new coach, and he did lose a few guys on his offense too. So he did take a lot more risks too, and I think you kind of see that sometimes being a bigger name quarterback at a smaller school in college football. You're like, well, I'm going to go to the league, so I'm going to kind of start adjusting myself maybe to the NFL a little bit more, taking a little bit more risks, trying to make some better throws to have on your film when it pops off. So I think that was probably the reason for his a little bit fallback this year.
I can see that. Yeah, trying to kind of show out before you get there. You get drafted higher. So let's go to New Orleans at 24. They just got Manny Sanders to go across from Michael Thomas, so that offense is even scarier, which is just insane. So they can either go a couple directions here, linebacker, O-line, maybe safety. I think this is a no-brainer in my opinion. They go Patrick Queen without hesitation. This dude's a freak too. You saw that in the college football playoffs this year. So he's captain that defense. This makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I do love LSU for New Orleans or Patrick Queen, and he's another sideline to sideline guy. Like you had mentioned, he was making every play in those playoffs this year. So for them to build up and get their defense even better, that just helps their offense, honestly. So they don't have to score 40 a game. I think Sean Payton will love that pick.
Yeah.
25 is Minnesota again. This is their original pick. They have AJ Epinesa available, T. Higgins, Chenault, Rager, Diggs, Terrell, Mims even. But they did take a corner a few picks ago with Christian Fulton. So losing Stephon Diggs or trading him away to Buffalo, they could be maybe targeting another receiver. And like, how cool would it be to see Laviska Shenault in Minnesota, or even Jalen Rager, another one of those types of speedy, good hands guys? But can you see that Kayvon Chaisson is still on the board? Do they make this play and hope that he's another Danielle Hunter from LSU? I don't know who to take here. They do need a receiver, though, like we had mentioned. So maybe they go with the big body T. Higgins. I mean, this guy has been awesome his entire career in Clemson. So I guess I would make this pick because they don't need a defensive lineman. But I have to imagine that they would consider Kayvon Chaisson.
Yeah, this could be this. Yeah, like you said, it can go anywhere. I do agree that wideout's probably their top need, being that they did lose Diggs. They need a guy that can create some separation, make some plays for them beside Thielen. So brings us to Miami for their third and final pick of the first round. Got a big chance here to trade back. They fill in some holes already. They've got McKinney, they've got Herbert. Still need some offensive line help. Not many guys fill that void in this area right now. Let's see here.
I could see them here going with Austin Jackson, though.
Ooh, Austin Jackson does make a lot of sense. You're right. Maybe a reach in my eyes. I don't think he's quite a first-round talent. I think this is where Kayvon goes, and he stops that fall. And this dude is a complete freak. Like, he's got his question marks, absolutely, but I think this is well worth the risk at the end of the first round for Miami. So they're going to go Kayvon Chaisson.
I mean, having 3 first-round picks, you might as well take a shot like that. Kayvon Chaisson, you had said, is really raw, but I mean, if they can develop him, he's going to be a heck of a pass rusher. I'd heard a story that he went to LSU for their LSU football day, and he was playing basketball, and he just went to support a friend. They put him up on the field, and by the end of the day, he had a offer from LSU. Like, that dude's a freak athlete. 27 is Seattle, and they, for some reason, still have not re-signed Jadeveon Clowney. I have to imagine they either figure that out before or maybe have something in agreement for after the draft, so they would maybe know what more to do here. While AJ Epinesa is still here, he's tough. He can get to the quarterback, and without knowing what their plans are with Clowney, I have to imagine that they would definitely go AJ Epinesa here.
Yeah, that's spot on. I think he could have gone as early as 16 even. This kid can play from Iowa, so that definitely makes sense because I do think Clowney goes elsewhere this offseason. So cool. So coming in at number 28, we've got the Ravens. They've got some playmakers. Obviously, we know Lamar, and it just came through. He's the cover athlete for Madden next year. And I think he gets another playmaker, freak athlete. Like, he's really fast, runs hard, and he's a wideout. They take Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, I mean, pairing Laviska with Hollywood Brown, can you imagine that offense? I mean, they're going to have just playmakers lining up across the field on that offense, and pretty much going to be like the Chiefs and just say, hey, this is what we're doing. Come stop it.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Should that offense click anywhere near what it did last year, that'll be crazy. So
yeah, that'll be insane. Here is the Tennessee Titans at number 29. They may look to trade back, but I do really like Trevon Diggs out of Alabama for them here. They haven't re-signed Logan Ryan yet, and they could always use another corner. I guess any team can always use another corner. With Trevon Diggs being the best available left here, I think Vrabel calls that pick in pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, especially with them losing Ryan, like you said, and he still remains unsigned. And for whatever reason, some people see him as a system corner that can't play on his own or can't shut anyone down, but I think he's still got the talent to be like a mid-tier number 1 or even obviously high-end number 2 cornerback. So pairing him with Diggs, they should be able to lock down either side. So Let's go jumping to Green Bay at number 30. They've been looking for their number 2 guy year in, year out, trying to figure it out. Epinesa St. Brown didn't quite pan out yet anyway. They've got a few options they can go here. Rieger, Mims, Ayuk. I think Rieger's the play here with his pro day. Like it or not, he ran a 4.2 something low. So that guy's an absolute athlete for TCU. So I think they jump all over this one.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor can kick return, punt return. They haven't had one of those electric guys since Cobb left him, I don't think. So, and like you said, pairing him with Devontae Adams gives Rodgers another weapon. We see kind of what Rodgers has to do with some lower end guys. Imagine having some top tier wide receiver with Devontae Adams. They could definitely be putting up a lot more points, which they're going to need as he ages. So I think that's a good pick there. 31 is the San Francisco 49ers' second pick of the first round. And they have a few different options here. With taking Ruggs at 13, they could definitely go best available and take A.J. Terrell and have him be Richard Sherman's partner for now and then take over for Sherman when he does end up retiring. I think that they make a pick that's going to be that or like a Ross Blacklock. That's a defensive lineman from TCU since they did lose Buckner to the Colts. I have a hard time picking between either one because I see a good fit for both of them. So with this being best available, let's just put in A.J. Terrell. Their defensive line is honestly fine the way it is. They didn't even need Buckner to be with Armstead because he's such a wrecking ball himself. So let's give him another shutdown corner here in A.J. Terrell.
Solid, yeah. That taking a top level corner from that Clemson defense is never a bad idea. They've been balling for 5-6 years now, so that is beautiful. Rounding out the first round, we've got the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, we know their firepower on offense, which direction they want to go. They lost Kendall Fuller to Washington again. Re-signed Breeland, though. So we could use a little help there still. I think they kind of go off script here, help their offense even more, and jump on J.K. Dobbins. I think he's going to be the pick here. And Mahomes is going to be stoked because he won't have to throw it 40 times a game, and they're going to have even more weapons.
Oh, yeah. I did not see J.K. Dobbins going or even a running back in this first round, but I do absolutely love it. I had them mock J.K. Dobbins in my first mock draft. Like you said, that guy was a complete back his entire college career. He can catch balls. He can, run all 3 downs. He can kind of do it all. So to help their offense even more and get maybe even better as they re-sign most of their other guys, that's a scary thought for the rest of the NFL, honestly.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, that was it for our first round mock draft roundtable for Colby and I. But we do appreciate you to listen and comment and subscribe. If you guys do have any questions or anything like that, shoot them over to us. And then let's all look forward to Thursday night in the first round of the NFL draft. And let's see where our teams pick their guys. And then we'll look forward to the second round on Friday and then the rest of the draft on Saturday. And talk to you soon.
Oh.